Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show for December 18th, 2020. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to welcome you to my podcast. So this week we're going to be going over the upcoming ingress of Jupiter into the sign of Aquarius. And it's like my cat immediately knows. He's right there wanting some attention. Anyway, he knows every week he comes into the window. Anyway, we have got a lot going on, and I'm going to just start talking about what's going on currently. It's actually not far off of, sorry, I'm just opening this new window of what's going on currently. So we've got a moon at 21 degrees of Aquarius. Let me double check. Friday. Yep, everything's accurate. So 21 degrees of Aquarius and sextiles to the south node and approaching a sextile exact to a 26 degree Mercury in Sagittarius. We've got the sun at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So what does that mean? It means that the sun and Mercury are in cooperative aspect to the moon today. A sextile is 60 degrees apart from the moon. And so they are in signs that are understanding of each other. So specifically Sagittarius and Aquarius, they both have a very strong bent towards freedom and individuality. Sagittarius really sees the world in kind of a self-centered way, pardon me for saying so, but the energy of Sagittarius doesn't get bogged down by emotionalism and what other people are feeling per se. It just wants to go forward. It's driven to go forward. So if you have strong Sagittarius in your chart, your main thing is to act, is to move forward and keep moving like the shark in the water. You just keep moving or you die. And Aquarius is about the power of the self and what the individuality is within the collective. So even though Aquarius resonates to the collective, it is very much an individual energy within the collective. And so the two signs together have a commonality of individuality, wanting freedom, wanting to have that autonomy about their being. And so having Sun and Mercury, which is ego, sense of self and identity, coupled with Mercury, which is how we think, what crosses our mind on a consistent daily basis, coupled and in positive aspect to the moon. The moon is saying, I hear you, and I'm going to use my modality, which is Aquarian. So it's using the commonality we all have, the collective understanding of something, science, technology, entrepreneurship, individuality as a conversation and a means of moving the story forward. So the collective grouping of Sun, Mercury, Moon is ego, thoughts, and emotion centered around family, centered around being part of the collective as a family. So it is much more like being in a union, being in a country, being on a team. It's part of the collective, but not necessarily the family, but we see where we're at. We see the people networked in our community as family. And then the other thing I noticed right away is that Mercury is pretty much combust, which means it is within 8 degrees of either side of the sun. And I think I mentioned combust and cazimi. So cazimi is 17 degrees apart either side of the sun, which means that there is still that corona energy, the sun shining out onto the energy of the planets around it, but it goes out to 17 degrees on either side, whereas combust is just like it sounds. It's the fiery energy. It combusts. It overtakes like this. It overtakes the energy of the planet or body near it. And so it basically overshadows or overshines the planets. And so since the sun is the central star to our solar system, Mercury somewhat disappears into the light of the sun. And what that means is it is also energized by the ego. And so, pardon me, trying to swallow here. So Mercury is thinking through the sense of self, and the thoughts are always me, me, me. That's really what the combination of Mercury and Sun is in any sign. It's like, how do I want this to be? What is good for me? Where am I going? And then the moon in Aquarius is really not only talking about family and place within the collective group, but wrapping up a story. Now that it's in the last 9 degrees of the sign, it is culminating the story around Aquarius. And so it is trying to get to the solution using intellect, using its ability to bring down information from the collective. And it is very much associated with mothers and who we are within that group. Like I said, the individuality within the group. And it can mean, because of the moon connection to family, that there is movement around the home, that something is going to shift and change, especially because Sagittarius is about houses. It is also about groups that are foreign. So there is a sense of movement of the physicality of the body to a new place. And then in sextile, the moon combines and says, okay, this is what is likely to happen. This is where you want to go. It's the culmination. It is the indicator body in the heavens for the process. We'll get more to that in a minute, because there's definitely stuff going on with Aquarius today, and it's pretty significant based on what's happening tomorrow. But we'll get to that. So currently, I'm just going to go over the planets and where they're at. So Venus is at 3 degrees Sagittarius. She just moved in a few days ago to Sagittarius out of Scorpio. So the energy probably lightened up a bit with that. And there's more optimism, more sense of hope that things can work out for us. I'm sorry, I wish I could make you, I guess I can make you brighter, but then you have to look at all that artwork. So we'll just keep you here. Oh, well. Anyway, yeah, that's all going soon, because I'm moving, and so we're gonna find a new place for it all. Anyway, yeah, so Venus now in Sagittarius, so her desires are to not be restricted, to be more free, seeking out new information, seeking out higher understanding, spirituality, spiritual growth, housing, for those of us who are moving, and I'm not the only one. Anyway, South Node at 19 Sagittarius. The South Node energy is karma, what we bring in from past lives. I have a South Node in Sagittarius, so it is the seeker of understanding and spiritual knowledge, which I very much see myself as. It's also a teacher energy on a higher plane. You teach the masses, because it is towards the top of the chart, and it is expansive to the view of the collective. It is the end degrees of Sagittarius are the boundary between Capricorn. They butt up next to each other, so it's Capricorn and Sagittarius, and right along that line is the fame point. So there is kind of a sense of being in the collective eye of everyone. Let's see, then I talked about Mercury, I talked about Sun. Pluto's at 23 degrees. Let's see, he is squaring Mars right now. Mars is at 22 Aries, and Pluto in Capricorn is at 23 Capricorn. So that's a direct square, which is a 90-degree angle. And so we've got Pluto, which is psychology, understanding of the hidden side of us, the deep, dark, foreboding side, what we keep hidden from the public, and squaring Mars in Aries, which Scorpio tends to be or appreciate being the keeper of wisdom and understanding of things that are hidden. And I think Sherlock Holmes would be a good example of a Scorpio driven person. Pluto um, picks up nuances of behavior and then keeps hold of those bits of information as currency. And so there's an understanding and a knowledge based on nuances. And I was thinking a lot about this week that a lot of times, well, I had an incident. I'll just give you a story. There was a time when I was teaching art at a Michael's locally part-time, and I had someone come in, and it was kind of a kismet type of meeting. And he came in and he was very passionate about art and wanted to learn everything about art. And I taught him for the class for a couple hours, and he had actually come from the other side of town. And when he came, he just kind of breezed in an hour late because he couldn't find it. He got it confused with other stores. And so when he got there, he was about an hour late, and then he did the projects and everything, and he kind of helped me clean up at the end. We went out into the parking lot, and he was from a rather ritzy side of town, and there were a few cars in the parking lot, and I had to go really quickly, but I said, "Oh, is that your Jaguar over there?" He's like, "Yes, how'd you know? Like, are you psychic?" And yes, I am open to psychic energy and understanding of things, and things do come to me. But a lot of that for Pluto, for Scorpio, is inference. So I knew he was from a fancier part of town, and he had driven a ways, and there was one Jaguar in the parking lot, and I thought, well, that's probably his car because he came from far away. And yes, we have Jaguars on our side of town, but it just kind of seemed fitting. So the part where it seemed fitting is probably the intuition, but inference is you come from a fancy part of town, it's the fanciest car in the parking lot. So you pick up these little hints of things that you collect. And so that's what Pluto's doing. Mars, on the other hand, doesn't slow down for the details. It just wants to keep going. It is very strong masculine energy, driven to hit like a ram. It just hits it. It's like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fight. Let's just beat our way through it. And so there's an inelegance about Mars of wanting to just punch it and not really ask questions, just do it. And then Pluto and Capricorn is the physicality of things, the structure of things, with that intuitive knowledge of how things are in their progress, in the process of becoming and breaking down, which is really where Pluto is exploring now in the last 7 degrees of Capricorn. He's exploring the demolition, the destruction of what was built, because not only is it the end degrees of a sign, which means now we're kind of, there's a, what do I call it? Like an arc. It's an arc, and I don't mean like the arc in a chart. It's an arc of process. So, and I suppose you could translate it to the arc of a chart because it's in the chart, the arc, and it goes through the sign in an arc. So I guess it is correlated. But when you go into a sign, the first 10 degrees are the initiating degrees. The next 10 degrees are the sinking in, digging your roots in deep, figuring out what you've got. And then the last 10 degrees are really finishing up the stories around understanding the energy and getting ready for the next incoming new energy that's teaching us something new. So the last 7 degrees with Pluto there, and that's just one side of it. The other is that Pluto is death and rebirth. So not only do we have the end degrees, but we also have Pluto, which is about the culmination of one form, one paradigm moving into another. It's really a transformational, but it can be very intensive transformation. It is explosions and volcanoes going off and earthquakes, and especially in Capricorn, it is of the earth. And so we're seeing this earth-shaking news, earth-shaking information, activities, pandemics, impeachments, large scale, larger than life types of events, which, as I've said before, Leo and Scorpio have a commonality, even though they square each other. And the commonality is drama. They're very intense and very large scale drama or contrast of viewpoints in what they express. And so there's a squaring between this very powerful, forceful forward motion energy of Aries and fiery energy with Pluto in Capricorn. So what does that mean? It means that, yes, there's potential for war, but there's also potential for fighting against authority, fighting against the norm, which is Capricorn. And if you're looking at politics, it's not just one side. Both sides have it. They just express it differently or with a different basic baseline of understanding their points of view. So the points of view are different, and they express it from that place. So, if you look at Democrats, I suppose, and this is probably bad getting into politics, but Democrats would say, let's make a change. Let's do something that moves forward with understanding the collective and the need to get somewhere different. And the conservatives, by nature of being conservative, are very traditional. And so they're trying to grasp onto that tradition and say, no, we're willing to fight to the death for that tradition. And so they're kind of at that odd angle, but also, even though they're expressing the same energy, Pluto square Mars, it's coming out in different ways. It's coming out fighting against what was in an election, or fighting to go forward. So it's just two different things. Then we have Uranus in Taurus at 7 degrees, and he is also squaring Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is just within the orb of square. He's 8 degrees off of an exact to Uranus, which kind of will be part of what we have to talk about for this coming year. But Saturn right now just moved into Aquarius, which we discussed last week. The moon is in Aquarius, and they joined up, I think it was early yesterday morning, like just after midnight when Saturn went in. The moon was right there, and some of my Instagram friends and even regular friends that are through Instagram told me and showed beautiful photos of Jupiter and Saturn together in the sky with the moon and Mars up at the midheaven. It was amazing that they were super shiny and clear. Even the day right now with the sun here in Orlando, it's very clear today. It was overcast yesterday and for the past few days, but today is really clear and crisp. It's like 51 degrees on its way down. It was 41 this morning. So it was really cold. Actually, maybe 30s. It felt like 37, my daughter said. So we've got this really clear sky, which is very Aquarian. It's about the air. It's about clarity. So yes, we had this huge storm as Saturn went from Earth into air. And then we also had, let me see, the moon was in Capricorn. I think the moon might have been in Capricorn when that whole thing started. But, it's blowing through in the nor'easter. So it was pretty intense energy, and it's really, these planetary positions are really kicking up some big intense stuff in weather, but also in emotions and in our lives, one-on-one personally. And I did kind of want to go over that. Let me see, how much time have we got here? Oh, we got some time. Okay, so really what I want to go over is how the Saturn-Jupiter energy will affect each of the signs. So you're gonna have to give me a minute because I don't have a rotating chart that I can go, oh, okay, now Aries is on the first house cusp. So I have to kind of envision where it would be and how these planets are interacting based on where it is in the chart. What I did, for those of you who are following at home, I've got Saturn at the moment. It goes into 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is Thursday, December 17th at 12:04. That was AM, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. I have it as PM, but I think it was AM. And okay, so yeah, 12:04 AM, December 17th. In Orlando, we had it at 12:04. It was Eastern Standard Time. So that means it was a 22-degree Virgo on the cusp, and Neptune was in the house of health. So that's a COVID energy. Um, really, the vaccine, I put that under Uranus, because Uranus is in Taurus, which is the body, but it's also science. And so I would give that to Uranus and Taurus, and also probably Mercury. So Mercury, at the time that Saturn went into Aquarius, is right next to the sun. So again, combust. So that's like the ego wants this to work, is kind of how I would take that. And then Venus, she's at 1 degree of Sagittarius. So there is a globalism about it, or off in the distance. It is in positive aspect and sextile almost exactly to Saturn, which means the structure of science is, there's a strong desire for this to really work around the world. And then with Mercury combust the sun, yeah, I think that it's going to have a lot of positive possibilities with that. And then the only thing that I'm seeing also is that Uranus is squaring to Pluto. Let me see, he's at 7, so it's actually not square. I wonder why it's, no, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not showing a square. Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. So Uranus in Taurus is retrograde thinking around science. So going back, there's probably going to have to be some more altering of what this particular, or actually both. And I've heard that the Moderna, which I find really an interesting story, Moderna is the second one. Pfizer's the first vaccine. Moderna here in America is the second one. And they are basically a group of, I think, I don't know what the word is. They're associated with colleges, so academics, that's the word, academics. And they have never actually produced for the market any kind of vaccine or drug like that. They just left academia to pursue more of the knowledge and lab work, from what I understand, but yet they came up with the vaccine. So of course now it's going to kick over into the market, and they'll figure out how to make that marketable. And from what I understand, the Moderna vaccine actually doesn't have to be chilled as much as the Pfizer one. So that makes it a little bit more easily marketed out to the people. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Uranus rules the science of it all, and Taurus is the physicality, and it's also the materiality. So material world and retail, how that's going to be sold in the market. And it's squaring the moon at 29. So I think I did a little bit of speech on discussion on how this is all working out for the vaccine based on when it came into play. So you can go back, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that. It might be last week too, the last 2 shows. So yeah, having Uranus square moon at 29 and Jupiter 29, there are 2 ways to read that. One is that it will not happen. The moon is, void of course, somewhat void of course, not hitting as an aspect to Saturn, but it does hit an aspect to Jupiter. And for me, when you still are like, it's 17 degrees, sorry, math, 17 degrees away from hitting Jupiter at the time we went into Saturn, that Saturn went into Aquarius, excuse me. I think it's late in the day, and when I had the late day podcast, I'm a little bit tired, so my mind isn't as clear. So in this chart of Saturn moving into Aquarius, moon at 29 and 12 minutes, and Jupiter at 29 minutes, which means that the moon is still approaching Jupiter. It has 17 minutes of time to hit Jupiter in the sky. So it does have an interaction. That tells me that there is definitely a strong foreign connectivity to the vaccine and to what we are going to get from this ingress. So what does the ingress mean? The ingress is, it's Capricorn into Aquarius. It's Saturn, the planet. And so, well, yeah, Saturn into Aquarius is that's the chart. I've got 3 charts up. That's the chart I'm talking about. Anyway, so Saturn, at the moment it went to 0, Jupiter and the moon were still about to join up. And so as an ingress, it means that there's something going on. There's still information that has to be culminated and, you know, bring about to its finality. Sorry, I keep getting, wow, this is like the difficult part of the podcast, getting notifications up here on the computer. So anyway, going down a rabbit hole, getting digressing here. So I'm going to stop that and go back to, so anyway, the vaccine, it has difficulties with Saturn, Jupiter, and the moon still right with each other, but 2 of the 3 planets not yet moved on into Aquarius. Tomorrow morning, so that is Saturday morning, which is December 19th, Jupiter goes into Aquarius, and Jupiter into Aquarius at 8:07 a.m. Eastern, and that gives it a Capricorn rising at 9 degrees, and that also puts all the Sagittarius planets from 15 degrees on in the 12th house. So there is something going on still behind the scenes. And of course, at that point, Sun is 2 degrees away from changing signs. Mercury is 3 degrees and 3 days away from changing signs, both into Capricorn. So we have this lag going on of energy, and Mercury, Sun, it's the idea and the ego. And there is a collective, honestly, a collective thought that this is going to be the path forward. That is the Sagittarius energy, like it's moving forward. Really what we have to watch is Mars. And when Mars gets into Taurus, which is January 7th, that, in my opinion, will be the true vaccine time when action can be taken towards science and scientific means. And that is when Mars gets close to meeting up with Uranus. And there will be an understanding. And not only that, after January, Uranus goes direct. Actually, Uranus goes direct January 7th, and I do believe Mars moves into Taurus on that day. Let me find my ephemeris here. Okay, so Uranus goes in direct motion on the 13th of January, and Mars goes into Taurus on the 7th. So they're about a week apart. But Mars will join up with Uranus fairly quickly after he gets into Taurus. So after the first week of January, it's like if you think back to 2020, the whole COVID stellium was hitting around January 12th and 13th. And that really kicked off the meaning of the whole year. Whereas this coming year, having Mars move into the sign of Taurus is one of the first things that happen in the year, along with Uranus going direct. Now, Uranus going direct is significant because Jupiter and Saturn will be in Aquarius next year. Although I have to tell you, Jupiter will get to Pisces in the middle of the year, and we will have very strong early Pisces energy, I think from like April through June. And so that's going to be a really significant punctuation to the center of 2021 with emotions and sensitivities. And being Jupiter in the sign that I assigned to the beginning of the COVID energy here in America was early in the year when we had the first Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So having Jupiter in Pisces is going to be probably over the summer will be the last peak of the COVID energy, as far as I'm concerned, until Saturn hitting that though. This is all just thinking out loud here. Saturn going into Pisces in 2.5 years, and then getting to those same degrees as that first Mercury retrograde in Pisces could be the finality of it. So at least for the masses. So Saturn, ownership, restriction, understanding the structure of it comes in, let's see, what are we going into 20? So about mid 2023, without a book that goes that far forward. I'm only guesstimating. It'll be early to mid 2023 when Saturn is in Pisces, and that will be I think very significant for the end of coronavirus for the masses, like the whole pandemic energy will finally get a handle on. It may take a couple of years, but that's going to be like a really strong, done, finished kind of energy where we're really getting back to having more community energy and involvement. So, um, okay. La 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 la. So what I want to do is give you your signs, and then when I'm done with that, I will tell you a little bit about what I think next year is going to be like overall theme wise, and I'll explain that in a minute. So Aries, obviously Aries going into next year, you have Mars in your sign, wrapping up the story about the push, and honestly, the anger or aggression or sensitivity to anger moving into a new sign early on in Taurus. And so, yeah, that Taurus energy can be also a bit brash because it is the bull and the bull in the china shop mentality or visual moving in there. I definitely think that we're going to have some energy coming in next year around money, which I'll get to that in a minute because this is part of it. And so Aries, you're looking to do more with money, make money, be around alternative ways of making money next year. And I'm just going to do this quickly. Taurus, your year is also about money, very strongly about money, but markets and alternative ways. So what Aries people will be doing is they're going to be putting their energy not only into Taurus next year, but also Gemini. So it's communications after a certain part of the year. And this is not meant to be a full year review, but just so you know, by March, Mars will be in Gemini, ruling planet of Aries. So Gemini's communications and education through late April, then it's talking about home and family. And then Mars gets to Leo in June. And so once it's in June, it'll be creativity and leadership and children. Then July, last couple of days of July into August, and early September will be Virgo, which is health and being of service and trying to understand the greater good. And that also kind of slaps over into October with Mars and Libra. And then the last day of October on Halloween, Mars goes into Scorpio. And of course, that's death and rebirth. And that's also understanding things on a deeper level, maybe a little bit more depressed for you, Aries folk. And then December is going to be Sagittarius. So next year, see, this year for Aries, we had half the year in your sign with Mars, with your ruling planet. Next year, you're going to have a wild ride kind of through the first half of the zodiac and really understand how each of those signs really relates through assertiveness and taking control. And that also means for all those signs. So Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and Libra, and Scorpio, and on to Sagittarius. Just hint of Sagittarius. So there's really 2/3 of the zodiac. All those signs will have Mars through your sign throughout this coming year. So I've got lots of chills with that. So when Mars hits your sign through what I gave you there in the months, you're going to be energized. You're going to feel like I'm assertive now. I want to go forward. I want to be ambitious. I want to do something for myself. So keep that in mind. Going into Taurus, Taurus is also going to be very activated early in the year. And also because of the aspect of Uranus in Taurus to the Aquarian energy next year, it's a square. So it is about breaking free of your dogma and really understanding what is alternative, what is a different way of looking at things, what is unique, and quantum thinking, which is going to be your path, honestly, for the next 5 years to 7 years. So Taurus is really in kind of an awakening period of understanding how to get out of their dogma and their well-worn path. We'll get more into that with the end of the year, you know, what's in store for each sign specifically, but I just want to give you a quick hint. Let's see, Gemini. Oh, Gemini, you have got all this energy falling into creativity. And so you're going to really find this is children and creativity. And it is honestly kind of pulling back and finding your own sense of self and who you are away from kids, because you have Aquarius energy strongly associated with your fifth house of children. And so I take it back. Oh my goodness. I'm upside down. See, I told you I had to figure this out. I've got it all flip-flopped. So it's actually, I don't know why I thought that. I was using Gemini as a midheaven, not the rising sign. So yeah, I'm sorry. It's going to be about commitment to money and others, joint finances, and um, getting free from some type of legal issues that you may have been dealing with, or situations dealing with a partnership. You're going to want more freedom, and entrepreneurial endeavors could come your way with a partner having that energy, having Aquarius in the partnership, commitment to partnership and joint financial house. Okay, so Cancer, let's do this right now. Cancer, your career is going to really focus on cooperation with others, and you're feeling like you want to be financially free from having a career reliant on others. And honestly, with the Uranus energy, Uranus rules technology. So you're probably going to find more ways of doing business through entrepreneurship and online. And let's see, Leo. Leo for you next year is going to be about work and technology around work, and also the science in your work environment. That's where all the Aquarius hits. Again, I'm just using this chart here that I have, which is not optimal for what I'm trying to do, but I'm just trying to give you a generalization of what energies are out there for what we're seeing coming in and how it does affect you in your life. So definitely having Pluto in your house of marriage and partnership is going to start making you more aware of where you want to be free from that deep commitment, which can be really difficult for relationships, especially if you're married. It's going to be a lot of subliminal stuff coming out, and then having Jupiter and Saturn and Aquarius is like you're just not going to want to put up with what you have been putting up with, just out of that self-effacing duty that Capricorn has given you. And now it's much more, I've got to be me and I'm going to do my own thing. Let me see, Leo. No, I said Leo. And then Virgo, you are feeling this in the house of children. You're going to feel it in home as well. So Sagittarius is being really triggered for Virgo, and let's see, first, second, third, fourth. Yeah, home and family is Sagittarius for you. So the Sagittarian energy is really the quicker moving planets coming up in the early new year. And so that means that there's going to be a lot more brief visits and brief action taken. It's not going to be long term, but then the longer term stuff for your chart is going to fall into home and family, where there's definitely a possibility of a move. And I also fall into that category. And then Uranus is in your house of partnerships. So that's going to bring in other people with new interesting ideas, but it can also mean that you're really exercising your interest in being more of a loner coming up in the new year. Oh, Libra, you've got, again, Mars is in your house of marriage and partnership. So there could be someone coming in for you, and you're being more proactive about finding someone. Then Aquarius falls in your, let's see, first, second, third, fourth, fifth house of children. And that is where you're looking to move further away from kids as far as emotionally. It's much more cut and dry, and you're looking for alternative methods, possibly adopting if you're interested in having kids, or just not any at all, which Aquarius in the house of children can do. That you may not, especially Saturn and Aquarius in the fifth house, not really interested all the time in having your own kids. Scorpios, you have the energy in marriage and partnership for Uranus, which means also looking for unusual partners and being a little bit more open to different types of things coming in. The Aquarian energy for you falls in your house of thought. And oh, wait a minute, let me see, Scorpio. No, that's home and family. So Aquarius in the home and family house, looking to break free. And again, I think let's see, 1, 2, I don't know. It's getting more difficult the later it gets. I'm really getting tired and hungry. So I'm sorry about that. Yeah, my vision's starting to blur, I think. Okay, so Scorpio, yeah, home and family, finding new ways of looking at home and family life. And then having Pisces energy, Neptune in Pisces is continuing on in your fifth house, and that's children and really understanding the process of connectivity and boundaries with children. So that's a big part of your next year as well. Sagittarius, again, the beginning of the year, quicker moving. You're going to have Mercury and Sun in your sign. Venus is there for the month towards the beginning of January, but then it's going to be about Capricorn. So money, probably a certain amount of status and credibility, and really understanding how you need to have a certain amount of discipline. And then Aquarian in the house of communications is going to be you're very inventive and your mind's going to be popping with ideas. Capricorn. So Capricorn, you've still got Pluto in your sign. So you still got a few years left of this major overhaul and renovation of your identity. But it will be easier, it will be lighter with the Aquarian energy going in your house of money and finance. And even though that is a little uncomfortable as an idea for a Capricorn, it is the energy that naturally rules your house of money. And so entrepreneurship or doing something with, like I said before, all the things that are Aquarian, science, technology, invention, understanding, communication on a large scale, broadcasting, things like that. And your soul group is going to be more important. So you can potentially be in a relationship next year of that really teaches you about identity and your place in your soul group. And then finally, Pisces, the Aquarian energy is in your 12th house. So there is like an added dimension to your psychic awareness, and you are definitely opening up to mediumistic and energy and awareness, and bringing in a whole other idea of what's really out there. Pisces is the last sign, so they tend to have like the sage wisdom of the zodiac, but Aquarius definitely wakes up the masses and lets us know that there is another way of looking at life and another way of thinking, which can also be really helpful for the Pisceans because they can get really bogged down in the emotionalism of things, whereas Aquarius takes us out of that deep emotionalistic state. And so that's going to be really your new ground zero and baseline coming into the new year with Jupiter and Saturn and Aquarius in your 12th house. It's going to be about what is it that you really want to do, and what is the subliminal thing that you've been thinking about but you haven't had the power to go do, or the idea that you could do it, go do it. So getting back to the Aquarius energy squaring Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn squaring Uranus. So we just had the moon and Jupiter and Saturn. Well, I'm looking at the Jupiter ingress. So as of Saturday, we have Saturn, Jupiter in Aquarius, and we just had the moon there. So we're really seeing what it's going to be like with the square to Uranus. And one of the things that came up in the news the last couple days is this Russian hacking of US governments and even major corporations and businesses. They say there's like 80% is businesses and then 20% is the government, but it's very broad ranging. I see that story as having tremendous legs. I think it's going to be a story that we deal with throughout the coming year, and that it's really going to continue on for a very long time because it's coming in with the moon in Aquarius and Saturn in Aquarius, which means it settles in and we have something to learn from it, and it is governmental. But that being said, they said that only, I think, 40 of the, like it's 40 businesses and the government. So it's not broad ranging that we know of yet, but I do believe that it's going to come bigger and bigger, and we're going to find out more and more people and companies were involved in this and affected. So I definitely see that, and it's technology. If you were really paying attention last weekend when, well, not even, let me see, what are we on Friday? Early in the week, like Monday, Tuesday, there was definitely some technology issues going on. Google was down, YouTube was down. I heard yesterday that Instagram was having issues with their links, and when you posted a link, it wasn't going through. So definitely we're having these technology glitches, and that's also part of Sun Mercury combust. but it is Aquarian energy coming in, and it's going to connect to the masses. So the good news is that as Jupiter gets to later degrees, and well, not even later, but like mid degrees by the time it happens, the south node, the world axis, Jupiter hits that, and that's actually in positive aspects. So there's definitely something coming in that is beneficial to us as a collective, and that will come up in 2021. Let me just see if I can find out when Jupiter hits 19. So it's going to be in March, early March, I think. 19. I'm just looking at the nodes. Oh, okay, 15. By the time, yeah, it'll be the last week of February. We're going to have a really strong energy going in, and I am getting together my map, so to speak, of the new year. I'm putting it all together in my new ephemeris, so my new daily planner. So I'm just going to tell you about that again. Daily planetary guide. If you want to get a link to it, it's on angeliczodiac.com. Let's see if there's anything else I can tell you about this coming week. Really, Saturday is a big day. We've got Mercury going into Capricorn on Sunday. Freedom is a given. I put that with Jupiter joining up with Saturn in Aquarius. That freedom is a given. That is important because we are feeling really restricted, but I think that there's going to be some pushback, absolutely, come Monday about having freedom. But just keep in mind that that does square Virgo, it squares Pisces, and it could come with a cost of health. Anyway, I think that's it for now. Sorry if I'm a bit rambling and disjointed at times. I'm going to try and edit this so it isn't so confusing. Anyway, I hope you have a good week, and thank you for showing up again this week and listening in. Take care. Enjoy your holidays. Don't know what my podcast will probably be up on Christmas Eve, my guess is, but anyway, thank you for joining me, and take care. Bye. Moon is 12 degrees of Capricorn, and Jupiter is at, oh God, can I just like edit this all out and start over? Will be the true vaccine time when action can be taken.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.